using confined situations, using the disabled population to heap further abuse in a covert way. So when you talk about exploitation of a population, a situation, it goes much deeper. Individuals, groups, organizations, companies, yada yada, exploit that for their agendas. Again, not every person, not every company, not every organization. This only applies where it applies. So let's say there was a religious agenda, okay? For an example, if there is an unspoken political religious agenda to basically modern day witch hunt someone, even though some of the witches are in their own congregations, but I'm digressing. What if the agenda, one of the agendas, unspoken for whoever this applies to, political, religious agenda, modern day witch hunt, was to stake claim that their child is in a situation that they're in due to them not being on their specified government approved path. While they torture, why they themselves approve of and allow that disabled person to be terrorized. And then when there is a manifestation of a phobia, trauma, all those things, then it is all one of two things. It is swept under the rug of it's just that person's disability, or it's swept under their manufactured rug to perpetuate their agenda. This is happening to this child or this disabled person because their caretaker, their parent, is not on a government approved religious, spiritual, or philosophical journey that we are on ourselves or that we approve of, while we simultaneously utilize military style psychological warfare tactics, sending people circling all times of night that would not otherwise be doing it in that very neighborhood. All of a sudden, every motorcycle gang known to man suddenly needs to circle around one particular apartment area or one particular corner of a crossroads street, while we simultaneously orchestrate that, while we simultaneously orchestrate randos just seeming to need to park for no apparent reason, like it's the drive-in theater, that don't neither live there nor any of the other locations that's in the vicinity of the area, that's neither delivering packages or anything else, dropping off, picking up, none of the plausible things in which you will see a vehicle parked in an area. While simultaneously orchestrating street theater, all of a sudden, everybody is loud, more loud than they normally are. All of a sudden, there is an ambulance that's needing to pass the area on cue every hour. using the torture of that disabled person, using their disability on top of the fact that they're being terrorized, on top of the fact of being in a confined area, to get to their caretaker, to further inflict the very people they claim to want to assist and help, the very people that have sought solace, protection, terrorize the very places that's supposed to be providing the opposite. See, this is the stuff, and then the target gets more abuse heaped onto them because, again, then they get all sorts of speeches and sermons from people who want them to just shut up and be quiet about how they need to not turn into someone that's just bitter and unhappy. Meanwhile, they're watching their kid be tortured and terrorized every day, intentionally, by distorted witches, warlocks, and wizards that are hiding in plain sight, while they know that they are being treated some kind of way and experiencing some kind of injustices. Then the target of the disabled is then told just to stay positive. Don't turn into an old, bitter, blah, blah, blah. All the while, most of these individuals are either a part of it or speaking out of ignorance. The agenda to punish modern day witch hunt when that's the case. We're gonna make it seem like this person is nuts and their disabled person is suffering because they're not on a religious government approved path that none of us live worth shit. But they're not. And we're going to do things intentionally. We're going to have people to stall and delay processes rigidly, vigorously, unnecessarily. We're going to have people to intentionally try to bug and irritate them by telling folks to do certain things. Whether we do this via V2K, voice to skull, or via actual verbal instruction. And as these people exhibit anxiety, as they exhibit anger, as they exhibit manifestation of being terrorized, then we can use in this confined area which we created, which is a low-key prison type with just cushy, spiffs without all the punishment. But these confined areas, these restricted, limited, closed in modern day witch hunts and personal private agendas. And I look down and I see the picture of someone in a military outfit hugging, looks like a little boy. And that's why I shook my head. Sickening. Using, allowing, turning a blind eye, whatever language we want to use in this situation, but allowing injustices, insensitivities, abuse, or any of such, no matter how subtle, is sickening. And to try to imply you adding, let's add some abuse to that. Let's heap on extra abuse. The reason this is happening is because the caretaker is not on our religious path. That's ignorance. I'm say it. That's ignorance, and it's also abuse, and it's also cowardly. Knowing that if the caretaker is strong, see, here's the thing in these situations. If they know that's a bad motherfucker, they got to come in with all guns. They know that. So get them in a restrictive, confined area, and we're going to highlight the issue with the disabled. And in the confined area, see all of that? Ain't nobody stupid. I just look like this, for crying out loud. This is what they do. And then, the fluffy stuff is, again, when there is a manifestation and a display of unrest and distress, then they're getting the fake pity, the pitiful. I call it fake because it ain't real, niggas. They're getting the fake, and as if it's something that's inherently an issue with them versus what it actually is. Everything is not the disability. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. I'm gonna put that on some earrings, nigga. I'm gonna put that, because again, this is what's being used. Just like us so-called air quote normal, and I have to say so-called because some of us just like a so-called, and I'm gonna say so-called because at the end of the day, some of us because the real behaviors and shit behind the scene calls into question, my nigga, calls into question some of our hidden agendas and secret goings-ons. But even us that we reference ourselves as normal, we consider ourselves relatively okay. If even we were to undergo a level of trauma to the magnitude that some of these TIs and these disabled people do, because I'm going to help some folks out there right now. This is not past tense. Thank you. I'm going to help some people. Have and do experience, we would all be showing a manifestation of sorts. And we're lying through our veneered teeth if we say different. The degree of the trauma and abuse that have been heaped and is being heaped, most of us would be manifesting something physical. Some folks don't even realize that that's why. That's a whole nother video, and I'm not gonna get too deep into that. But there are some folks that don't even know. That's why they sick. They think it's for some testimony. They think it's just life. They think it's just by chance. And that's because of lack of what? Knowledge about what? A whole lot of shit. Everything starts with energy anyway. That's another video. Everything as we know it. The agendas exploiting vulnerability, exploiting these disabled people, knowing that people are just going to look at them. And the ignorant is just going to say is due to their disability. And the ones that call themselves woke or spiritual or saved is then going to say this is due, motherfucker, to the curse on the bloodline, motherfucker, and the caretaker bitch, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, open up a doorway for the devil. Ignorance. Meanwhile, the real devils are the ones that are talking amongst one another, plotting, planning, and scheming. They're the devil. Not the devil in the Bibles that some pretend to read, but they're the devil. Agendas. When there is a unspoken, now please, I have to say this, and I'm going to keep saying it because my video is going to end up wherever it's going to end up. So you got to catch this. This applies to whom it applies to. This is not every person everywhere. This is not every religious person. I hate that I have to say it, but I do. I have to say it. Because not everybody is being, hacked, because some people don't. Again, all I can offer is this. Just because the MFers ain't knowing what's up don't mean it ain't so, baby. Simple as that. Whether this is V2K or, like I said earlier, actual verbal instruction given. V2K simply just meaning that people don't know that there is things that are being implanted into their own mind, and they're taking it as God, and they're taking it as this, and they're taking it as that. Whatever it is, the lack of knowledge and knowing mindless behavior. Oh, get up and go attack this disabled person. Get up and without even conscious. Sometimes you see where I'm going with that? Just disconnected. Autopilot. And others, they're in on the agenda full throttle. Okay, again, modern day witch hunts. On top of, if you separate, that's a main thing. Now that's a big thing. As time proceeds, I will talk more about how it's in everything, whether people themselves are aware that's what they are. Because when you bring an element of it's in everything. But what makes it benevolent versus the other shit? Nah. There we go. The lack of insensitivity to the population, any vulnerable population for that matter. We're highlighting the disabled, how they're used, and it's just the sickest thing ever. And I have every full intention. It's the sickest thing that I've ever experienced in this timeline, in this plane of existence. Me and my son have been terrorized since early. Okay, first it was from the origins that we came from, then it was from somebody I started dating as a teenager. Unbeknownst to he and I, that explains a whole lot of what took place in our life. all of the troubles and issues were not what they appeared to be. That's why I said this is sick. It had nothing to do with his disability. It had nothing to do with me being fickle and all whatever. It had nothing to do with, just all the things that, even well-intending, well-meaning people, that maybe not necessarily mean any harm, they come in because, once again, the lack of knowledge. The program, the scripts that, this is when you get tired of getting in all these sectors and everybody's trying to fix you. And sometimes you don't need fixing. You just need people to leave you the fuck alone. And by that, it's your life. Not just, okay, well, I'm not talking, no, leave you the fuck alone. Stop sending negative vibes. Stop hiring one raggedy motherfucker after the next to do some dumb shit. Stop, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just need MFers to mind a fucking business, period. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes it ain't this big pow pang boom. It's motherfuckers. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need motherfuckers to shut up. And if they don't like you, then they don't like you. Simple as that. But, ceasing to try to tamper with your life. People that become obsessed with you. Like I said, there's so many things that be at play. And people are so gullible. Especially all somebody got to do is flash a badge, and some of us will just believe it on GP. It can be from Toys R Us, nigga. And some of us will cold straight still swallow that shit as if it was the gospel. Or famous people. Some of us stupid for that. Woo! Woo! This is stupid. The thinking cap went off. And we just swallow it. Agendas. They want somebody to look like crabby, bitter, all the things. And I'm going to say this again, because in real time, the things that be happening to these people, even they themselves, people say, listen to me, I don't care what nobody say. I don't care. Listen, I had a beautiful soul, somebody that was very kind to me and my son here recently. Very kind, above and beyond. I won't be giving names, I'm just not doing that. It's the reason why I'm holding back from certain stuff right now. And this lady now, don't misunderstand, this lady I probably don't even know the half of what she has lived through, suffered through in her own life. Okay? Medical things, stuff with family, life craziness. Okay? Now here, I don't get into the comparison thing because I feel like it's a disservice to all of us. Comparison like, ooh, I suffered and woo. It's like this is not a competition. But not a lot of people have had their own family trying to kill them. And I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. Because see, not a lot of folks, at least not to their knowledge, I should say it. That's better stated. But not a lot of people have had their own family, whether it be their blood family or people that they grew up with and knew as family. Not a lot of folks have experienced that type and level of betrayal or trauma. And to tell somebody to just get over something that maybe they can't swallow because they are blind or possibly under spell, fucking who knows. Another day, another video. Listen, that's a whole nother animal. When you're dealing with, we have to start thinking about putting ourselves in the shoes of the people, whether it's something we can digest and swallow. See, this is what you call a legit mofo. This is a motherfucker that should be in the field, in the industry, motherfucker of the health systems and shit. Because, you know, whether or not, you know, we want to put everything under the category, oh, you know, this person suffers from paranoia, you know, paranoia ideations, and, you know, we want to get fanciful and highfalutin, and perhaps it's more convenient to accept and believe that that's what it is. Maybe it's better because it's less messy, and in some cases, it helps some people feel good about themselves, sadly enough. The person has to be living with the fact that they're being abused every day. And then when they seek out help from people, they got to hear preachy sermons. They got to hear people's undertones and judgments and presumptions. That, you know, and one thing and the other. It's easier to believe that the person is just paranoid and suffering from some kind of mental illness. And in fact, we're going to make some conditions for them to drive them there so that we can say this. And to tell these people that is not fitting. It's lazy. These people live out what they live out. Yes, there are cases, yes, I am aware. Possibly more than those who got all these highfalutin ass jobs. I am aware, yes, from a medical perspective, a behavioral health perspective, in some cases, it's paranoia. I am also aware of the agenda to make a lot of things look that way. And it is insulting, and it is counterproductive for the therapeutic process. Now, you're listening to someone who has not only have received professional help, have worked in the field. See, the assumptions people draw when they look at you in a current situation. Don't know who you are and what you know. using, oh, this is stressful, you damn right it's stressful. But we're going to go ahead and clarify why it is. Because there are energies that's making it unnecessarily stressful than it already is naturally. Everything is not bitterness. Everything is not the disability. And most certainly, these agendas, these modern day witch hunts, that's downright illegal. But it's presumptuous and it's projecting. And there's no space for that in the helps field. I would like to believe, what if I was a Hindu? I talk about stuff like this all the time, but I do it intentionally too. And the only reason why I throw that out there for those of you who know, why did she say that? Why did she? Oh gosh. I say that because lots of times people used to think I was part Hindu. They used to think that. They would look at me and they would assume that there was a great somebody, you know, blah blah blah, and you know, are you exactly? Are you? No, I'm from America. I'm black. But listen, you know why I'm going here? Because to presume, what if I was Hindu, and what if I honored, you know, traditional Hindu practices, and you know, that's who I am. You know, I ended up in America, went to college, you know, whatever that landed me here, met somebody, got back, whatever. And that's who I am. Or it's a part of me. My practices, you know, whatever. And then I go through mishaps. I go through a tragedy. I go through, even, let's say I go through abuse, you know, somebody violating me and violating. What if I experienced a hate crime unbeknownst to the people? Because there are people that hated me because I was a Hindu. So they went on a witch hunt, for lack of better words, because they don't approve of my Hindu-ness. They thought I was the devil incarnate based on the programming and scripts that they have been given stuffed down their goddamn necks. And let's say me and my family suffered some hate crimes, but incognito, because people ain't stupid in 2026. So they just become more sophisticated at their bigotry. Let's say they blacklisted me, made up a bunch of shit so that I would have to lose my job. Let's say they start breaking in things, but it don't look like breaking in because it was people who have access and, you know, hidden under the guise of cable, whatever, and blah, 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 blah. Let's say, you know, depending on where I was, you know, they put me on a list. And so all the local businesses and the restaurants, you know what I'm saying, are given some lies so that they would either mistreat me, turn me away, spit in my food. And then let's say I go to get help from the so-called motherfuckers that's supposed to be helping all the populations. And let's say they just look at me like I'm a quack. Whack job. Don't believe the shit I said. Let's say in some cases they themselves have an issue because of their own personal belief system. So they themselves are sitting there quietly getting their judgments and determining whether or not or to what extent in which they want to help. In fact, maybe in some cases ways in which they can get you to not be able to get the help, but not make it look like that, because let's say as a Hindu, you know, I reach out to someone I grew up with or someone that I was on another path with, you know, but we were cool. We were, you know, we jived and shit, you know. And, you know, we had no problem. There wasn't no shade, you know. Good folk, you know, good folk. We good exchange, you know. And, well, either they don't believe me or they just kind of brush it off and just say, you know, well, you know, life happens, you know, just got to keep it on and, you know. Just want to be positive. And, you know, you want to make sure you get back on the right path. You know, maybe have you considered, you know, because in the Bible, there's a part of me that always has wondered, even long before me and my son in this personal situation, in all of my seasons, because I've had, like I said, I've had many, some mountain tops. And I've been a part of different things on this journey of discovery. And even then, I had this wondering, what happens to people out here? I mean, because I love programs. I hope some of y'all out there don't get this twisted or misunderstood. It's a beautiful thing when there's people out there that's sincerely trying to help. That's one of the most beautiful things I've experienced, seeing sincere folks. They ain't pushing the agenda. They ain't pushing bureaucracy. They're not pushing even themselves. They're not trying to push their, you know, because whoever they are as a person in their own personal life, you know, allowing that to bleed through the help for the people. That's a beautiful thing. Now that I have high regard and respect for, big time. Because that's a lot, and that takes a lot. Because, I mean, it is a lot. Okay? And I also don't have a problem. I need to say this too, just to be fair. I have to say it because it needs to be said. I actually don't have a problem with anything faith-based, just like I don't have a problem with secular. See that? I don't have a problem with these things in and of themselves. Let me put it that way. In other words, just due to that. So, I'm going to have a problem with it, woo-de-woo, because it's faith-based. Why? Maybe that's them displaying their service. You know, whether or not I can agree with it doesn't matter. That's a part of them displaying what they feel called to do. Okay? That's beautiful. I have a problem when it's something that turns into projection, though. And this would go for anything for someone like me, whether it was religion, spirituality, whatever the case may be. Because again, I've always wondered what happens to these people. Because we have to get in the mind and the feet of the individuals that are in it. Not theory, not sitting at a table on a Zoom meeting. Are we taking for granted that anybody that we help is gonna want the full, gonna want what we're offering beyond the services in which we have been approved to give? Is that fair to them? Is that honoring to their choice? We might believe that their life would change for the better, or their life is only in that condition only because that's our view. We don't know what kind of grotesque shit that didn't happen, because some grotesque shit didn't happen to people that's been strong in the faith. Make that make sense. So we don't know. Are we honoring them, or do they have to conform if they want to continue to have assistance from us? Or are we going to do our witchcraft on them that we call prayer? Are we going to send subliminal messages to them to make them feel some kind of way, whether or not they want? Are we going to just project and intrude? Not ask if they want prayer, not ask if they would like to do, a Bible study, not ask that we're going to enforce as terms and conditions to be helped. You want to not be on the street? Yeah, you better come to prayer. My son in real time is being attacked. As am I. But listen, in real time, energetically, mentally, verbally. Yes, we are. And the disgusting thing is, as it pertains to him, it's swept under the guise of it's the disability. That it's just a manifestation of disability, or it's a manifestation of trauma. Sometimes it's a manifestation of some trashy motherfucker in our energy. Purr. Sometimes that's what it is. Again, people with agendas. Folks don't know what I've lived. I've had death threats. That's what I'm saying. People don't know. They don't know. And some just don't want to believe it. Yes, exactly. That ain't the same. Hashtag not relatable. Exactly. Death threats. Yeah. People making their way into me and my son's energy and space and making sure to say something for me to be able to hear it. A threat. I don't take those lightly. Weirdos lurking around. See, people don't want to believe the data. Some of them won't even look at the proof, because I got some. The reason why they won't look at it, because they don't want to deal. I got some on a whole lot of motherfuckers. sending people to come to my son. They already struck 3. They already got the 3 strikes. They're out. They don't know it yet. 3 times. That was it. Every time there's some kind of transitional change, us navigating this bullshit, they send some degenerate. Shameless. Shameless. We're going to do this. We're going to torture this disabled person. That's why like I said, I lost respect for a whole lot of people that I once upon a time had respect for. Their insensitivity, their lack of humanity, their lack of empathy and compassion for my son is enough for me to lose respect. They mock, they tease. A bunch of ignorant motherfuckers.